Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Berkeley County Board of Education meeting this Tuesday, October the 27th. I call this meeting to order. I declare a quorum is present and the media has been notified. Do we have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved, Mr. Chair. Second.
Mr. Chair, I move that the order of the agenda be changed to go into executive session immediately following item number 6, which is citizens' comments, in order to consider item number 14B, discussion of contract purchase of property, to act on that item immediately after we return from executive session, and thereafter to follow the rest of the agenda as written.
Second. All right, we have a motion to approve the agenda with an amendment. That amendment is I move that the order of the agenda be changed to go into executive session immediately following item number 6, which is the citizens' comments, in order to consider item 14B, the discussion of a contract, the purchase of property. To act on that item and immediately after we return from executive session, and thereafter to follow the rest of the agenda as written. Is there any discussion? All of those in favor of this motion, please respond by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Then the agenda has been amended. This time, will everyone please stand for the opening prayer and pledge. Our Father, who art in heaven,
hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and power, and glory, forever and ever.
Amen. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Moving on to agenda item 4, the approval of the minutes of our regular meeting of October the 13th. Do I have a motion?
Mr. Chair, I move that we approve the minutes for the regular meeting on October 13th, 2015.
A second.
And a motion has been made to approve the minutes of our regular meeting of October the 13th, 2015. Any discussion? Then all of those in favor of this motion, please respond by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Okay, then the minutes are approved. Then moving on to agenda item 5, the approval of the September 2015 Head Start budget, expenditure report, 2015 Head Start credit card report, program information report, revised transportation service plan, revised disability plan, and the prospective new hires. Do I have a motion?
Mr. Chair, I make a motion to approve the September 2015 Head Start budget expenditures report, September 2015 Head Start credit card report, program information report, revised transportation service plan, revised disability service plan, and prospective new hires as presented in agenda item 5.
Second.
Then we have a motion to approve the September 2015 Head Start budget expenditures report, the Head Start credit card report, the information report, the revised transportation service plan, the revised disability plan, and the prospective new hires. Do we have any discussion of this? Then at this time, all of those in favor of this motion, please respond by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. Then moving on to agenda item 6, which is our citizens' comments. Before we start those, let me remind everyone of the procedures here in order to conduct this meeting. In an orderly and efficient manner, we ask that you honor the following guidelines. Stakeholder comments are welcomed and encouraged. However, the board will not take immediate action or on public comments at this meeting. Any person wishing to address the board must register prior to the meeting. Comments must be regarding programs and policies and procedures. Comments regarding complaints against employees other than district-level executives or references to students other than the child of the speaker will not be heard in public session. Groups addressing the same topic should select one speaker. To maximize participation, comments will be limited to 3 minutes per speaker, and the board has set aside a total of 30 minutes for public comments. The board chair does reserve the right to allot additional time or halt public comments that do not adhere to the guidelines. Tonight we have 6 speakers. The first is Mr. Raymond Brown, who is going to discuss, again, distributive practice.
Dr. Turner, Mr. Hayes, and ladies and gentlemen of the school board, I'm Raymond Brown, and I'm happy to be here to give you some information and perhaps ask you some things. One of the first things that I want to tell you, I just mentioned to Dr. O'Gorman over here, is that I was in touch with Senator Groom's office this week, and he's in the process of putting a bill before the legislature for vouchers in South Carolina. I don't know the details of any of that, but I thought you folks would be interested in knowing about it. And so he sent me out some information. I'm sure if you called his office, he'd be happy to send you folks information also. Let me mention just briefly things that I've mentioned before about distributed practice. I've had teachers in the Low Country that have used material that I have written where the students learned up to 900% of their norm, or for the amount of time used in the classroom, 2,700% of their norm. And this is a procedure that works each time. It works every time. It's recommended by the Program for Effective Teaching that was adopted by South Carolina. And Governor Haley is in favor of it. She assigned somebody at the State Department to try to help me a little with it. And I can give you details on any of the things that you're interested in, but in 3 minutes is not a lot of time. I propose tonight to create, and this would be very inexpensive, very easy to do. I propose that a DVD be done on distributed practice. A DVD that would go out to all the teachers in the district. My experience out in Utah when I first employed some distributed practice is that with a DVD, a teacher could double a student's learning, maybe more than that. I mean, if they really worked at it, they could do a lot more than that. But the DVD would be inexpensive. It would take, a little effort on the school board's part to create such a DVD. I would be happy to, help with it and give my input into it. But it would be something that would give the teachers of Berkeley County a jump on improving education in Berkeley County. Later on, I would propose writing curriculum materials on distributed practice that would further enhance the learning of the students. Probably you'd go from double the learning to 3, 4, 5, 6 times, and sometimes more for the students. I might make a further comment that South Carolina, if it were to do this with distributed practice, would very quickly become the #1 state in the country in education. That would mean that, well, it would take probably a couple of years to do that. It would probably take, that long. But you would have practically all the kids in the state of South Carolina, or in this case, Berkeley County, that would be approaching grade level in 2 years, as opposed to being down in the, the bottom 25 percentile. And so, a DVD would be a very inexpensive way to start. I might make mention of one of the reasons why this distributed practice is not better known in the country, and that's basically because these newspapers do not consider this newsworthy. I've talked to the Post and Courier. They says, well, 900% gain, that's not newsworthy. It's newsworthy for Ms. Jones to take her kids on a trip for a picnic, but not otherwise. I see my time is up, so I thank you for your attention and look forward to getting your support. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Mr. Bill Healy. Comments regarding our 9/22 meeting.
Good evening, Chairman, Superintendent, members of the board, citizens of Berkeley, and guests. I'm here to address things that I heard from the interim superintendent regarding the meeting of September 22nd. Superintendent, you discussed the meeting proposal regarding the sale of the Williams Lane school site with members of the city of Hanahan. You stated that the plan was ingenious as presented by Kevin Cox. However, you took it upon yourself to just disregard it. You mentioned mistrust and integrity and some challenges regarding the proposal. I know that, again, you will tell me you're the CEO, but sorry to inform you that you are the interim superintendent and should have left that decision to the elected officials sitting beside you. In all actuality, Mr. Hayes is the chairman of the board. Now, Dr. Turner said there was a mistrust issue. That's been going around for an extremely long time. But if I'm not mistaken, Dr. Turner, you are currently under contract with the Berkeley County School District. Why a contract? Is there a trust issue between you and the school district? Contracts are a way of doing business to ensure we live to our commitments. With that said, I do appreciate you diligently working with the city of Hanahan on this new contract and having it ready for tonight's meeting. That showed you wanted to make a difference, and regardless of the outcome of tonight's vote, you did. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for getting this contract ready for tonight's vote. To the board, even though you have passed a resolution, which I thank you for, it's just a piece of paper which carries no binding weight. Attendance lines can be changed in just 2 votes. You see, this is a major challenge. Mistrust between the school board and the residents of Berkeley County. Unbelievable as it may sound, this isn't just about one city and the school board, but the whole county and the school board. With the addition of our new superintendent, Ms. Blackburn, it's now time to turn the corner and rebuild the confidence we need to make between Berkeley County School District and the residents of Berkeley County. We need to make the students first and foremost in our education system because that's why we have a school district. Let's make a decision once and for all to leave the politics out of this and work together to have the best district, not only in the state of South Carolina, but in the whole country. We are better than this bickering, and it has no place in this environment. We need to stretch out the olive branch and work together and show our children that anything can be accomplished when we work together instead of small little vacuums that we have created. Time for meetings between the board and our city, county, and town councils. According to a new study which was commissioned by Berkeley County, we'll need roughly 20 new schools to support the growth in this county. I would estimate this somewhere between $500 million to $1 billion to perform this task. But the question is, where do we get the money? After last referendum, do we really think we have the people's trust? We need to put the words trust and integrity back into the vocabulary when speaking about our leaders in the school district and the public. How do we work together for all the children of Berkeley County? Let's learn together to build this trust and integrity between the citizens and school officials of Berkeley County. It is the job of not only the Berkeley County School District, but the communities, which include the residents and leaders, to fulfill the aspirations of every child that we support. Regardless if that child wants to dig ditches or architect the infrastructure going above the ditch. Maybe their aspiration is to be the person who cleans the Oval Office or actually sit behind the desk in the Oval Office. No matter what their dreams and aspirations are, we are here to fulfill them. Let us now change the current course we are on to join together for these children. In closing, this is aimed at all our elected officials on the board. Never let a few run roughshod over you. You have been elected to your positions by the great citizens of Berkeley County. You were placed there to make the decisions and watch over our children's education. You are our elected officials and the guardians to not only our children, but the infrastructure that supports their education. We may or may not agree on things, human nature, but I will ever defend your rights. Your interim superintendent had no right not going to you regarding the Kevin Cox proposal. This is why you were elected. He may voice his opinion, but the taxpayers gave you guys the final say. Board members, stand up for your rights, the residents' rights, and the children's rights. Be the guardians you were elected to be. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Ms. Christy Rainwater concerning the Hanahan New Elementary School.
Good evening, Ms. Rainwater.
Good evening. Just wanted to stand up. I know that we said only one speaker, so I'll keep it real short, and I don't really have anything prepared. But tonight you guys have a proposal, and this is why. The little ones that you see before you. Here, go out there. You want to see them? He's kind of dumb. And basically, when I started really asking about attendance lines in schools in Hanahan, this one was a wee little thing. And since then, I've had Haley and another little one. And the more time that passes, the more time they're not in these schools. And as much as, you know, you really do need to do due diligence, you don't want to make a poor decision, but not making a decision and just kind of circling over and over again is making a decision for no for these kids. I was so hoping this little one would be attending a Hanahan school, and he's not in a Hanahan school because there is no school where he's going to fit comfortably. And we actually have moved so that we're on the other side of the attendance lines now, but at my old house, if I didn't move this summer, he wouldn't have even had that opportunity. So now that was a decision that was made for him because you guys didn't make the decision, because you didn't move forward at the time it was presented. And so we have a great option on the table. And this one starts kindergarten in the fall. So my request, yeah, you're already in kindergarten. So my request is that we don't do circles and we don't not make decisions which actually makes a decision for them, and that you just move forward with what you have. Thank you. Hello. They're very excited about this. Make it happen.
Our next speaker is Ms. Christina Brooks of Tanner Plantation Area School.
Good evening, Ms. Brooks.
There. Good evening, Superintendent Turner, Chairman Hayes, distinguished members of the board. My name is Christina Brooks. I'm a Tanner Plantation resident, a grateful mom to 3 kids. The oldest is a first grader at Hanahan Elementary, and I'm also a member of the Hanahan Citizens Committee. As you can see, I'm dressed in my scrubs tonight because it came from my job as a pediatric nurse, like you, where children's care is entrusted to me. I know that I don't have to tell you the impact and the effects the overcrowding at Hanahan and Goose Creek are having on the kids in my community. I'm here after 17 months of fighting for the solution to that very problem, the new elementary school. And I'm asking you tonight to please say yes on the purchase of the property at Williams Lane. And Dr. Turner, I would like to express my gratitude for how you've kept communication going with our committee, how you demonstrated an offering of trust by doing that resolution and doing it so expeditiously. we know that it's your intent and the board's intent to keep the Hanahan kids together, which is what we want. We also listened when it was communicated that the board makes decisions for all of the county and will not bind a future board. The Citizens Committee has worked very hard, and I've enjoyed being a part of it. I can tell you honestly, however, that I would much rather devote my time to working in and for things associated with the school and not just the idea of one. Exactly 2 weeks ago tonight, my community came together with a fun and respectful rally for the new school outside of City Hall, and also packed the City Council's meeting room. After careful consideration, our City Council voted unanimously to sell the Williams Lane property to you, deed restriction-free and for appraised value. The excitement among parents, grandparents, and other stakeholders was electric, and it hinges tonight upon each of you. Each of you has the ability to say the word that you asked the public to say in 2012, yes. Board members, please say yes for our new school. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Mr. Jeff Chandler in support of the Hanahan School. Mr. Chandler.
Welcome, Mr. Chandler.
First time in 20 years I've stood on this side of the bench, and I didn't realize how it's nice it is to have a chair to be sitting in so people can't see your knees wobbling and they can't see your hands trembling as they can here. Yes, I'm here on behalf of the City Council. I'm only one of 7, but I'm here to speak on behalf of the City of Hanahan in regards to the contract for the purchase of the new elementary school. Hanahan being considered tonight, as many of you know, at the last City Council meeting, the motion was 7-0. We finally all came together. There was still some reservations, but we all came together because everybody on City Council loves this city. And that's why a lot of people moved to Hanahan, is because the schools are that's the heart of a city. And that's why they move there, and that's why they're so impassioned about having their children go to Hanahan schools. This gave us the ability, after the vote, this gives us the ability for finer details to be worked out by our staff and legal representatives to get the very, very important steps to the finalized process. I'm happy to say that over the past several weeks, individuals from the city and from the school board have worked very hard to produce a solution that I think we can support. I'd like to thank each and every member of the school district and the city staff and the board members and council members for their hard work during this time. We are very excited to see the plans for the school and the construction to begin and witness the opening day. I've already asked Mr. Murray, I want to be there when we turn the shovel. He says, well, we got gold shovels. So I said, I don't care what color they are as long as we break ground on this school and we get it going. And for the children and teachers to pour into their new school. I wish I had a couple of props for the young children there. That was unfair, but well worth it. Finally, I would like to thank the citizens that worked very hard and exercised a great deal of patience and understanding. I know that over the last several years that there's been a lot of frustration, and I'd like to recognize the Citizens Committee, that if they would all mind standing up, that worked on behalf of the city. While there may have been disagreements, they were given a charge that almost every person on the council gave, and when they ran, and that was, we pledged to try to get all Hanahan children into Hanahan schools. And I think that's where the battle began. But I think now we've all reached a solution which is a win for everybody. We respectfully ask that the board strongly consider the contract in front of you tonight. And you have my commitment and several other people on council, which I can't speak for them, but I certainly feel that we all want to see this built. And at our November 10th meeting, we hope to commit the same thing to complete this contract. So please support this contract tonight. This in front of you, and let's build this school. Thank you.
Mr. Chandler, if you would stand right there. Mr. Chairman, may I respectfully request the opportunity to speak to Mr. Chandler?
Yes,
May I have your
go
permission?
right ahead.
Mr. Hodges, there he is. Could you stand up too, Joel? I'm going to speak to you too. I'll never forget the Sunday we spent together. Joel, we can all three testify that we drank coffee that day. We drank coffee. It was wonderful. For those of you who don't know Jeff Chandler, those of us who were born and raised in Hanahan, we call him Mr. Hanahan because of all he's done for our community. Joel, I feel the same way about you. I am forever grateful to the two of you. It is important that our folks who are here tonight from Hanahan understand how important these two were in getting us to where we are tonight. So could we give these two gentlemen a round of applause? And in closing, when we get together the next time, I will arrange for the designated driver. Thank you. Thank you, Joel. Thank you, Jeff.
Coffee.
It won't be coffee, Reverend Barnes, I'm sorry.
And for our next and last speaker, Ms. Patricia Eckstein on the Tanner Plantation K-5 school.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Turner, Mr. Hayes. Tonight's a pivotal evening for not only Hanahan, but for all of Berkeley County and the Berkeley County School District. And I so look forward in the future, as I expressed to all of you in an email, that the blessings that are coming to Berkeley County open doors for all of us. And I really look forward to us all being able to work together. It has been such a learning experience for the citizens in the community. We've learned a lot from you. We've learned a lot from the city as well. And if we just pick it up and go from there, we will all be better for it. I can't say anything more than anybody else said tonight, but I would also like to point out that Dan Owens is in the audience too, one of our council people from Hanahan. It was an emotional, rewarding evening 2 weeks ago. We are so glad this is on the agenda this evening. We are so grateful you moved it up on your agenda this evening. And we hope that you will, we're hoping for a unanimous vote as well. And you'll have 2 more votes than we had at City Council. But thank you, and we look forward to moving forward. Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure to work with all of you and get to know you all.
Thank you. At this time, I'll entertain a motion to go into executive session to consider the purchase agreement.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
We have a motion to go into executive session
Murray and McQuillan.
to discuss the item
14B.
B, which is discussion of the contract purchase of property. It has been seconded. Do we have any discussion? And at this time, all of those in favor of this motion, please respond by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. And we are in executive session.
Okay. I used to get cold.
Do I have a motion to return to general session?
So moved, Mr. Chair.
Second.
We have a motion to return from executive session to general session. Any discussion? Then all of those in favor of returning to general session, please respond by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Okay, do we have a recommendation?
Mr. Chairman, the administration recommends approval of the purchase and sale agreement between the City of Hanahan and Berkeley County School District for property to build an elementary school in the Tanner Foster Creek area. The property is popularly referred to as the Williams Lane property, containing 21.437 acres and generally known as tax map parcel number 259-00-00104.
Do I have a motion?
You do, Mr. Chairman, and very thankful for the opportunity to make this motion. Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we accept the administration's recommendation to approve the purchase and sale agreement between the City of Hanahan and Berkeley County School District for property to build an elementary school in the Tanner Foster Creek area. The property is popularly referred to as the Williams Lane property, containing 21.437 acres and generally known as tax map parcel number 259-00-00-104.
Second.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a friendly amendment to the motion to approve the contract, and this amendment has been discussed with city officials. The friendly amendment is I move that the contract language appearing in Exhibit B, Section 2, second paragraph, beginning with the phrase, quote, notwithstanding the foregoing to anything else in the agreement, close quote, and ending with the phrase, quote, U.S. government parcel and the grantee's intended use of the U.S. government parcel, close quote, be deleted in its entirety and replaced with the paragraph supplied by the administration that describes the default consequence of the failure to mutually agree on the infrastructure agreement as, quote, the grantor shall only be required to build the road, the sidewalk, 1 6-inch water line, 1 8-inch sewer line, and 1 sewer lift station pursuant to sections 1 sub C, 1 sub D, and 1 E, above with only enough capacity to serve just the grantor property, close quotes.
Mr. Chairman, I will accept Mr. McQuillan's friendly amendment.
Second.
All right, then we have a motion to accept the administration's recommendation to approve the purchase and sale agreement between the City of Hanahan and the Berkeley County School District for property to build an elementary school in the Tanner Foster Creek area. The property is properly referred to as a Williams Lane property containing 21.437 acres and generally known as tax map parcel number 259-00-00-104 with a friendly amendment attached. Is there any discussion?
Mr. Chairman, I would just like to take this opportunity to thank Dr. Mike Turner. All of us have been blessed to have the last 5 months with him. We have nicknamed him King Midas because everything he touches turns to gold. My friend, Mrs. Jean Turner, you have quite a husband. I respect him greatly. Thank you so much, Dr. Turner.
Thank you, sir.
Any further discussion? Then at this time, all of those in favor of this motion with the friendly amendment, please respond by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. 9-0.
Mr. Chairman, if Dr. Turner has any comments, I would appreciate if you would give him the opportunity to make those comments. And then may I suggest that we let our young families exit at this time so that they can put their children to bed and get some reading in before they go to bed.
I told our new superintendent that I would be I would go underground for some time when she takes office because that's what I do. I disappear, as people know that from my prior times that I have retired. But I may break that promise when it comes time to dedicate this school.
Amen.
Amen. Then all of those who wish to depart at this time, we'll give you that opportunity. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yes, sir.
We'll take care of it.
That's an object lesson. Think how surly those people would have been after.
Yeah, exactly. I think we can all see why we amended the agenda. Okay. Moving on to agenda item 8, the Deputy Superintendent, an item for information, the Advanced Ed update. And who is doing that?
It's going to be Mr. Davis.
Mr. Davis.
Do this next Tuesday. All right, let's do it.
Good afternoon, Dr. Turner, Chairman Hayes, ladies and gentlemen of the board. Tonight, I bring to you one of our final presentations right before our accreditation visit that will take place November the 1st through the 4th for Advanced Ed Systems Accreditation. And I want to give you some, in this presentation, I want to give you some information that's going to help you kind of be prepared for the external review visit that we're about to face.
Mr. Davis, would you turn the microphone closer to your area?
Is this better?
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
All right.
We got some celebrating going on out there.
During an external review visit, in terms of systems accreditation, one of the things that I want you all to be familiar with is that district accreditation applies what we call a systems approach to improvement. It examines how elements of the school system work in concert for the benefit of student learning. So what the team will look at, they're going to look at how all of the parts of the system, the district, are interrelated, how they work, how they depend on each other, and how we work together to improve student outcomes, as well as to improve teaching and learning, to ensure the safety of our students. There are multiple things that they're going to look at while they're here. All of those pieces working together for the benefit of the children in our system. When we're talking about accreditation, there are 3 pillars of accreditation that the team will look at. In order for our system or our district to maintain its system accreditation, we must meet the Advanced Ed quality standards. If you can think back to the very first presentation that we did about 14 months ago, the 5 standards are governance and leadership, purpose, or standard 1, purpose and direction, standard 2, governance and leadership, standard 3, teaching and assessing for learning, standard 4, resource utilization, and standard 5, continuous improvement. How we look at our how we evaluate our system to ensure that we are making continuous improvement. The other part of it is that the system or the district must engage in continuous improvement. And then at the very least, we must demonstrate quality assurance through internal and external review. What we've worked on for about 14 months now is that we've conducted our internal review, which is basically a self-assessment of all of those different 5 standards that we just discussed, looking at our purpose and direction, things like our vision and our mission, as well as looking at governance and leadership, our board policies, and how we implement those policies and we follow those policies to make sure that the system works appropriately. In addition to that, we also looked at our teaching and assessing for learning, looking at our common curriculum, our programs that we have in place to improve student outcomes, to improve teaching and learning, as well as looking at the resource utilization, things like human capital, our employees, do we have enough, the staffing ratios, those kinds of things. How do we evaluate our staff to make sure that we have quality staff in our system? In addition to that, we also look at our results, continuous improvement, collecting that data and actually taking a look at the data to make sure that we are using this data to improve all of the different pieces of our system. So that's the quality assurance. So when the team comes in November, the self-assessment that we've done, we know that we're going to have some things to work on. This team is going to validate everything that we've done in our self-study. So here's what the expectations are. It's two-pronged. In order for us to maintain our accreditation, the district, again, must meet the advanced stat quality standards, those 5 standards, identify and guide the implementation of a systemic continuous improvement process. We do those things through like our district strategic plan, monitor our schools through a quality assurance process, and prepare and host an external review team every 5 years. So this is our 5th year. If you can think back in 2010, we received our first accreditation visit, our external review visit from Advanced Ed in 2010, when we were actually accredited through this organization. So 5 years after that, we have to host an external review to maintain our accreditation. So again, 5 years after this visit, we'll have to do the same process as well. Schools, the other piece of that is that schools, they too must meet the advanced ed standards. While the district was conducting their self-assessment, schools had to conduct one in concert with us as well. We also had to they have to implement the district's continuous improvement process, and they do that by way of their school renewal plans, which many of our board members are a part because we have children in our schools, and participate in the district's quality assurance process as well. So same process, but more specific to schools. During the visit, here's what we can expect during the visit. What the team does is they're gonna take a look at our artifacts, things that we've submitted for them to review to actually prove that we're meeting those 5 standards. And if you can think back in 2010 when things weren't electronic, we've now moved into the technology age. So before, in 2010, we had all of these boxes in a room for them to go through each individual file to take a look at evidence. It's more sophisticated now. The team already has our evidence by way of a web page that we built. So each one of those standards has artifacts under each indicator to actually prove that we're meeting those standards. So they're reviewing those artifacts prior to the visit, so they pretty much have an idea of what we use to actually make sure that we're meeting those 5 standards. They're going to interview team members, and this is the part that you'll be very much a part of. Interview board members, district level administrators, they'll interview school administrators, teachers, pretty much all of the stakeholders within the system, parents, as well as community members. They're going to be doing some school visits. While at the schools, they're going to observe classrooms this time. While they're observing the classroom, they use this thing called the Elliott Observation Tool, which is a student engagement tool to see how engaged our students are in the classrooms. And at the very end, they'll do some professional deliberations to actually help them make decisions regarding our school system during the visit. Again, kind of got ahead of myself. This is who that team will interview. We have a total of 8 team members, and these are the people they're going to be interviewed. Believe it or not, in that short amount of time, they're going to interview a whole lot of people. It won't just be a few. This slide represents the schools that the team will visit, And if you will look, all of the AM schools are listed, and the majority of those are elementary schools, and they represent different regions of our system. And in the afternoon, they're going to visit mainly our high schools and middle schools because of the time frame of when the schools take in and when they dismiss. So while at the schools, they're going to interview the school leadership teams as well as perform classroom observations as well. So. Kind of give you an idea of what that schedule looks like at a school. In AM, the first thing they're going to do is interview the school leadership team. That interview will last approximately 45 minutes, and the majority of the time will be spent in classrooms doing student-centered observations using the Elliott Observation Tool. Busy day, and then those team members will travel to the PM schools, and same process, but the interview will be at the end of the day, and we'll take them back to their hotel for them to do some professional deliberations as well. That very last day, which will be that Wednesday, where the district will receive an oral exit report, which will let us know how we did in terms of accreditation. And during that exit oral report, here's what we can expect. The team will highlight some of our notable system strengths. Many of those we've already identified. We know where our strengths are. Everyone in this room can pretty much tell you what our strengths are in terms of a school system. They're going to tell us what some powerful practices are. Those powerful practices are things that we are doing really, really, really well, that they may share with other systems who are going through accreditation so that they can actually make visits to our school districts, things that we are really proud of and that we know that we do extremely well. We're also going to have some required action. This process is about continuous improvement. How do we get better? Jim Collins wrote a book, Going from Good to Great. We want to be a great school system. We don't want to just maintain that status of being good. We always want to be a great system. So those required actions will give us some information on how we can get better. In addition to that, we're going to receive what you call an index of educational quality, which is made up of all of the various standards. Each indicator that we examined when we conducted our self-assessment will go towards the score that we'll receive in our index of educational quality. And then at the very end, they're going to give us an accreditation recommendation. So we will know when that team leaves whether or not we maintain our accreditation. The Advanced Ed Systems Accreditation External Review Visit is November the 1st to the 4th. If you all will look in your packets, what I did give you, because I know many of you have some questions about what do I need to do to get prepared. And I tried to give you some information about advanced ed planning considerations inside of your packets. If you take a look at that document, there's some information that is very helpful for each of you to kind of help you get prepared for the interview, as well as to know what the process is, give you more information about the process.
That packet's online?
It's also in your folder. It's online and it's also in your folder. Title of it is Advanced Ed Planning Considerations. Oh, okay. It's posted. Then it's online. I'm sorry. All right. Thank you. It's posted. Sorry, Penny. Any questions?
I would like to point out that the board is scheduled to have to come together as a group at 3 o'clock on that day. Is that the last day for that report back?
Yes, sir. On Wednesday, November the 4th.
That's right. They will hear the exit information directly from the team in this room. Is that
Yes, sir.
correct? All right. Just verifying that everybody knows where they're going to be and gets that. If they cannot attend that day for their interview, which is a prior day, they should contact you or email you and let you know that that's on the. Is it the?
That's on
Monday.
Monday. Yes, sir.
If there's a problem with your interview time on Monday, please let Mr. Davis know, or any member of the cabinet, and we will make sure he gets that information so that you can receive a telephone interview from the chair of this committee.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I think some board members have already contacted me to let me know there's a scheduling conflict, and that's fine. If you let me know, I can make sure there's just a phone interview. We can work around your time. All right?
That form you gave us it's got kind of sample questions.
It does.
Our questions are governance and leadership. Are those the ones that we should draw?
You probably want to focus your attention on some of those. I can't tell you exactly what the questions are, but you can focus your attention around those themes. Okay. Absolutely. And they may actually around those themes. Okay? Any more questions? All right. Well, thank you.
Okay, moving on to agenda item number 9, administration and facilities. Item for information, capital projects for the 2015-16. Mr. Jackson.
Good evening, Chairman Hayes, Dr. Turner, members of the board. At this time, I'd like to ask Connie Myers, our Director of Facilities and Capital Improvements, to come forward, please.
Good evening, Chairman Hayes, Dr. Turner, and members of the board. Tonight I want to talk to you about the Facilities Capital Improvement Program for school year 2015-16. The focus of the program is to provide a safe and healthy learning environment and to be fiscally responsible in using the funding wisely and efficiently. So let's get started. First, I'd like to set the stage and give you some facts on our facilities. in our Facilities Services Division that is expertly managed by Mr. James Thomas. Mr. Thomas, could you stand for a minute? Yes? He is the man that receives the middle of the night phone calls on facilities issues, gets up, handles them, even during flooding conditions. Thank you, James, for all you do for us. As you can see, Berkeley County School District owns 41 schools, and this year we added both Nexton Elementary and an addition to Stratford High School. Those two projects together added another 140,000 square feet to our inventory. We've also completed the Cross High School construction project, but that project improved and renovated existing spaces, but did not add square footage. BCSD also owns 11 support facilities, such as this building, Menriv, Oakley, food services, etc., and 66 learning colleges, our favorite relocatable facilities that serve as classrooms. We also have mobile buildings that we use for storage, bus driver offices, and athletic rooms, but we did not include those in the inventory this time. Totaling all the facilities together, we have 5,821,346 square feet. That all needs to be maintained, repaired, and sometimes improved. As for the personnel who actually do the maintenance, repairs, and improvements, there are presently 96 hands on the wrench. I know that people typically like to say boots on the ground, but I'm a Navy CB veteran who does not use Army phrases. So to be true to the blue, we're going to say hands on the wrench. In addition to the 96 hands on the wrench, there are also 9 supervisors and 9 support staff. Looking at the data and dividing the overall square footage by the number of hands on the wrench, we can say that Berkeley County School District has about 2 technicians per school. In comparison, our school district has 3 times as many custodians, or 1 for every 23,000 square foot of space. Now let's talk about funding of the yearly capital improvement program. The funding we received this year is the same amount as we received last year, or a total of $3.4 million. The program has 3 parts. First is the district-wide contracts in the amount of $1.4 million. Second, the principal requested projects that amounted to $1 million. And third, the maintenance and repair projects identified through the facilities assessment. The district-wide accounts are funds we use to perform planned and routine maintenance in all the various trades. Some of the work includes replacing lights, plumbing, and HVAC equipment, refinishing gym floors, fixing bleachers, roofing, hardware, etc. Most of the work is identified by the schools when they submit a work request through our school dude system. We try to concentrate our forces, both night crews and day crews, by going to 2 facilities per day on a rotating schedule, and this is what we call the Road Warrior schedule. We believe when the school can plan for our arrival and we can concentrate our forces, work can be done more efficiently. This slide shows some history on the number of work requests that are processed each year. The green line shows the number of work requests received, and for last year we received 22,358. The blue line shows the number of work requests completed, and for last year we completed 19,160. The bottom scale shows the different school years. We started at 09-10 and it's gone up to year 13-14. Based on the slope of the green line, the number of work requests continues to rise, and this is to be expected as our buildings age, the amount of students grow, and we add more square footage with the completion of our bond projects. The gap is growing between the number of work orders received and the work orders closed, which indicates that our backlog is growing. As our backlog grows, this condition can frustrate some of our principals. So Mr. Jackson has been very good at running some interference with the principals and also helps us determine the priorities of the workload. So thank you, Mr. Jackson, for having our backs. Here's a table showing all the district-wide accounts for both facilities and technology and the amounts allocated to each line item. The items that have the highest amount of funding this year are the phone systems and the roofing maintenance. Now, there are two ways we identify capital improvement projects. First, we obtain lists from each principal by asking them to provide their 3 highest priority projects. Then we take this list and meet with the Chief Administration Officer, Mr. Jackson again, and we complete a preliminary screen. Some principals' items can be completed through a work request, and we'll go ahead and complete that work. Some items cost too much and would take all the funding for the whole program, so we got to defer those. Some items can be reduced in scope. For example, a few schools ask for all their HVAC units to be replaced, but we can break them down into sections and do a phase at a time, so we've done that this time too. This method used to whittle down the list is to continually ask if the project will help to provide a safe, orderly, and healthy learning environment. That's our guiding principle when we decide what projects go forward. Secondly, we identify projects by asking the wrench handlers to look at their systems and determine what systems need some work. The wrench handlers conduct queries with our school dude work request system and find items that require repeated repairs. Don't say that 3 times. For these items, they can determine whether or not replacement may be less costly alternative than continuing to repair the item. Additionally, they also look at the age of the system to see if it has passed its useful life and the ability to obtain replacement parts. All this information is rolled up into a facilities-wise assessment, which we will show you later in this presentation. This slide is the list of projects that the principals have identified. All the projects wouldn't fit on one page, so this is the first page, and here's the second page. This is all their number 1 projects as designated by the second column that says A1. The second way we identify capital improvement projects is by completing the annual facilities assessment. For several months, each shop supervisor meets with his lead technician and evaluates the system. As you know, we have high retention in the facilities department, and many of these technicians have been working with BCSD systems for over 20 years. They thoughtfully review each system school by school and assign a condition to each system, either red, yellow, or green. Red denotes that the system needs to be replaced within a year, yellow within 2 to 4 years, and green means the system is good for 5 years or more. The supervisors then estimate costs for the projects identified for each of the red and yellow coded items. Here are the 14 systems that are assessed: building envelope, roofing, HVAC, electrical systems, fire alarm, lighting, plumbing, painting, boilers and hot water heaters, elevator, pavement, floors, outside lighting, and athletic fields, playgrounds. This is a slide that shows the results of the annual facilities assessment for school year 15-16. Along the left-hand side, each row represents a school. The first column is the school name, next column is the total square footage of the school, and the third column gives the time frame in which the school was built. Many of our schools have had additions or some renovations done, and that is why there's a range of years. The rest of the columns across the top of the page are the various systems we've already talked about. And looking at this chart, we have found that we need to start planning to do some more large system replacements at several schools. And I have identified these schools in this next slide. Recently, Mr. Jackson presented the growth study for our school district that projected that we'll need 20 new schools in the future. But that really is only half the story. We also need to start planning and designing some major renovations for some of the 41 existing schools. We must keep in mind that when additions have been built at schools, the existing school structure were most not touched during that process. And some of the original schools are starting to age and are requiring more repairs. Based on the collective thoughts of the supervisors of the various systems, this list of schools in priority order will need some system-wide renovations in the next 8 years or so. The top 3 are Sedgefield Intermediate, which is 24 years old. Sangaree Elementary, parts of that school are 40 years old while other parts are 17. And Sangaree Intermediate, parts are 28 years old and the rest 17. This is our list that we're going to start looking more focused for how much it's going to cost to do some of these system renovations at these schools. I also wanted to point out that renovating existing schools have more complications that make the cost higher than expected. This slide gives you an explanation on why renovation projects cost so much. First, we must do the work while the school is occupied, so construction has to be phased, which means that we have to be able to shut down parts of the school, temporarily connect all the life systems and utilities so we can keep the rest of the school open at the same time. Construction needs to be accelerated during the unoccupied times like summer and holidays, which means costly overtime work. Security checks and safety practices will need to be closely monitored because the work is going on in very close proximity to students and staff, and there's a cost associated with a good safety and security program. As we discussed earlier, the two ways we generate capital improvement projects is from the principal input, and this year we had $7,246,330 worth of projects. Secondly, through the facilities assessment process, there was another $3,185,685 projects identified. So with the $2 million funding, we have a deferred list of $8,432,015. On this slide and the next one, we have listed all the projects that will be funded this year. The list is in alphabetical order by school. This is the first page of the list. The A items are items that were identified by the principal, and the M items were identified by the facilities assessment. Didn't fit on one page, so here's the second page. Now, in the following slides, I wanted to quickly show you some pictures of the projects completed by the Capable Facilities Division last year. Hopefully, you'll be able to get a sense of the length and breadth of the program and see the wonderful improvements that we all made throughout the school district. Cross High School, we replaced 23-year-old HVAC units. I think there were 7 units replaced. Here's a couple. At Stratford High School, we replaced $100,000 worth of plumbing fixtures in the original school that was 35 years old. This stainless steel hand washing basin we couldn't get it, was obsolete, and there's no replacement parts. So our talented carpenters and plumbers worked together and built a new hand washing basin using metal framing, plastic laminate, and off-the-shelf sinks and faucets. These are some very beautifully renovated group restrooms at Cross Elementary School. Considering that they were built 58 years ago, they look pretty good now. Replacement of the internal downspouts to external downspouts at Sangaree Elementary School to stop the leaks on the inside. The internal downspouts are over 40 years old, so it's no wonder they've started leaking. At Devon Forest Elementary School, we replaced carpet that was 24 years old in the media center. We're renovating 59-year-old locker rooms and restrooms at Kane Hoy Elementary Middle School. At Marrington Elementary School, we upgraded and replaced the fire alarm system. We could no longer obtain parts for the obsolete system. At Hanahan High School, the baseball backstop was redone and more netting put up because of safety concerns with foul balls. Berkeley High School, we replaced a leaky roof on the lower roof of the old gym. Sedgwick Middle School got a new outside basketball court. And St. Stephen Elementary School group bathrooms were renovated. These were originally built 61 years ago. So is there any questions?
I have a question about the backstop at Hanahan. It looks just like the backstop at Berkeley that Berkeley raised money for. I don't remember ever seeing this on the list, or the bricking or any of that netting. Was that always on the list, prioritized last year?
I believe so, yes.
It was always on the list. Somebody's saying yes.
Mm-hmm.
But it was on a list and it was approved and it came in front of the school board?
Yes.
And we thank y'all for that. As anyone who's ever visited Hanahan High School's campus, that track runs right behind the backstop. We've had many children hit by foul balls in the past. I thank you for the purpose of safety. Thank you.
Is the roof also at Berkeley High School, is that complete or is that still under construction?
It's still under construction.
There's still a lot of mess and you can't park in all the parking spaces. Do we have a time frame when that's gonna be done?
I believe it should be wrapped up within about the next 3 weeks.
Weather permitting.
Weather was a big factor there with all
Yes.
the rain that we've been having.
You can't put new roof on when it's raining, and so that's been tough.
Mr. Chairman, may I have the floor?
Hmm?
May I have the floor, sir?
Sure.
Okay. Ms. Myers, I've got two concerns, and I think this is part of why you're presenting to us tonight, is so that we're aware of these concerns. $3.4 million for capital improvements. Mr. Thomas, that's about what we've spent since I got on this board 8 years ago. So that's not going to, we're never going to have progress towards our deferred maintenance. And I understand that agencies, including the Citadel where I teach, have a lot of deferred maintenance, but it can really get away from you. So I would encourage that we take a look at our capital improvements allotment next year, so that we can begin to work on this deferred maintenance. Am I incorrect in making that point? I am correct. So is this?
Apply for other funds like
I remember the QZABs. Yeah.
So there's other funds that we're trying to also supplement some of the capital.
Yeah. The QZABs had a 0% interest rate, if I recall. Close to it. Yeah, those were fantastic. My other concern is, are we also low on our maintenance staff? Because as we add schools, obviously we have more square footage to maintain. We're going to need additional employees. Is that something we're going to talk about during budget times?
Those are conversations that we've been having, but
Okay.
obviously during budget times, we also have to prioritize as well. But those are conversations that we've had with, in cabinet, and also I've had those conversations with James Thomas. We're trying to get back to levels where we once were prior to the economic downturn.
Right. Our taxpayers want these buildings maintained, and Mr. Thomas and Ms. Myers, from what I've seen, we do a fantastic job maintaining our schools, but these are gifts from our taxpayers. We need to make sure we're taking care of them, and you certainly are doing it. Well, I look forward to hearing more about that in the future. Thank you.
Any other questions?
I have one more question. Do we try to do a project at every school, or do we prioritize the needs of, there are some very old schools like you just went through. Does every school get something? Because I have a hard time prioritizing a backstop over bathrooms that are 50 years old. So it's really hard, or someone has turf on here for $800,000. It's hard for me to think about every school gets something when there's some schools that have really need something. And so does every school get some kind of allotment from the principal list, or?
Not every school. Some principals don't put in things because they don't need things. Yeah. We look at the projects, all three of us really sit around the table and say, well, we probably can defer that one, but we really can't defer this one anymore. It's hard to do, to balance everything.
And as Connie said earlier, some of the projects, some of the requests that we receive can actually be handled through a regular work order, and they get processed that way. So the majority of our schools do get touched with the capital improvements program.
Except the new ones.
Now, these projects that you defer, do you ever go back to them?
I got a master list of them.
Okay.
So I know what they are, and if we have a catastrophic something happen, I don't hesitate to elevate that, and Mr. Brownlee tries to find his money. So, in some cases we do that, and they might not be on this list, but during the year if something catastrophically goes wrong, we will bring that up, and usually he can find me some funding somewhere, and we get those covered.
Well, my concern is, as my core partner was saying over here, we have some very old schools. And in some of these schools, I noticed that we did facelifts on certain portion of the school. And then other part of the school is still old. So we need to look at those structures as well. We're not going to be able to build all new schools, but we're going to have to find some way to maintain the ones we have. funds don't look too good from what you're saying. When I look at the figures, it looks like we have more work and money we have. So that's something we're gonna have to seriously look at during the budget, as we budget for the next year.
I'd like to add too, there's also some state responsibility to this. There's been some state bond monies that we've had. 1999 was the last time we really had any sort of significant dollars. We'll be talking about a lot of major facilities in our next referendum, whatever that looks like.
Next what now?
Referendum, whatever that looks like.
Oh, okay. I thought I heard you said that.
We'll have to talk about this.
Brownlee, the Office of School Facilities did our inspection at Goose Creek Thursday, and she said that the legislation's actually putting out a bill that's going to have funds for fire alarm system and fire protection systems. So she said start getting those in order, because we could go after those, so.
Anything helps.
Any further discussion? Questions? Okay, thank you, Ms. Blair. Thank you. Mr. Jackson? All right, moving on to agenda item number 10, financial services.
Mr. Chair, members of the board, and Dr. Turner, we have for you invitation for bid number 456-1516 for Fishburne Elementary, College Park Middle, and Berkeley Intermediate for remedial enclosure repair projects. I understand remedial means a fancy word for repair, so we got two words, repair, in there, or non-major construction. Most of these three schools will be getting downspouts and metal covers for existing gutters and a new slope roof over the Fishburne Education Center and some metal panel wall cladding as well. We'd like to award this to Keating Roofing and Sheet Metal Company for a total estimated cost of $101,500. I believe this was actually under budget. So as you see some of those projects that are listed, we actually bid those out. We can hopefully save some funds by bidding those out and move those to the other projects that they need more money. So ask for your approval.
Okay, we have a recommendation. Do we have a motion?
Mr. Chair, I move that we approve IFB 456, the 1516 for remedial enclosure repair projects at Fishburne Education Center, College Park Middle School, and Berkeley Intermediate School for an estimated cost of $101,500 as presented by Mr. Thomas in Finance Agenda Item, it says 9, but that's probably 10 now.
Yeah.
Since we moved in executive session.
Second.
All right, we have a motion to approve IFB 456 for the 15-16 school year for remedial enclosure repair projects at Fishburne Education Center, the College Park Middle School, and Berkeley Intermediate School for an estimated cost of $101,500 as presented by Mr. Thomas in Finance Agenda Item number 10. Do we have any discussion?
Just had a quick question. Have we done business with the Keating firm before and we were
I believe I've
satisfied?
seen that firm before, right? Yes, we have, yeah.
Okay.
And they're local.
Yes.
Anybody else? All right, then we have a motion. It's been seconded. All of those in favor of this motion, please respond by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. And Mr. Thomas, you have your.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Next is an item for information, the introduction of the new Berkeley County School District website. The reason I'm here is to introduce Diane Driggers, but this is going to be a collaborative presentation between Public Relations and Diane. Another department that will actually need some more staff when we add some more schools and has done an outstanding job as well during the storm. So thanks for that, Diane. PowerPoint's right there for you. Thank you.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Mr. Hayes, Dr. Turner, and the school board. Tonight we are going to together, Jordan Hensley and I are going to go through our, and kind of give you a preview of our new district web page. And this has been a joint endeavor between communications and technology. Kind of wanted to lay out, communication is responsible for the layout of the design of the web page, also the content, the district main web page, the content, the images, they keep up the district calendar. And then technology, our responsibility is just to ensure the compatibility with our infrastructure. We are responsible to train and support all the school and department webmasters. And then we maintain the Office of Technology page, but then the board videos, but also the intranet, which is also part of the of our webpage we're responsible for. The reason we decided to switch, one main reason is Blackboard Connect bought School World and School Wires. We had School World, and when they looked at both products, they decided to start investing all of their resources in School Wires instead of School World, which meant that with School World now we have like some downtime. It's built on an older technology, and there's a lot of limitations. Just some of the pictures that we put up there, they don't have a lot of flexibility on posting the pictures and videos. And also, they've discontinued any enhancements to the School World. So we moved to School Wires, and they guarantee a 99.9% uptime, so we're looking forward to that. And it's got a built-in language translation for the website. It's better integration with our infrastructure. And it's got something that called responsive template that automatically adjusts what, I'll show you an example of it. This is when you pull up a web page with on a desktop, and you can see the menus across the top and the bottom. This is the same web page pulled up with the responsive template where it's for a tablet. And you can see it's collapsed the menus up top. And then the same web page pulled up on a mobile phone. So when you hear responsive template, that's what they're referring to. Another feature that we looked at was an enhanced calendaring system that School Wires had. And one of the features is the ability to set up, anyone can set up an online event registration if there's a meet or any kind of training or something that you wanted to do where you wanted for people to go to the website and they could register for that particular event. The other thing, you can add a calendar event and you can add files that can be downloaded by the viewer. So if there's some additional information you wanted them to have for that particular event. With the calendaring system, if people register for those events, you could get, any kind of rosters, or when people sign in, you can keep track of who attended the event. Another feature is the ability for users to create an account. When they go to our webpage, they can create their own account, and they'll be able to subscribe to just certain parts of the webpage. Maybe, their students their children are at Stratford and College Park Meadow, and they really only want to see calendar events that are changed at those sites. They can subscribe to just those particular sites, and whenever they go to the webpage, it'll be their view of the webpage. And they could set it up to follow certain calendars, news, or teachers. They could follow a teacher or school, and then anytime, the registration process will take them through, and can pick out what particular, if it's a particular school or an event, just certain things, whatever they want to see, they can pick those selections from the webpage. And then they'll be able to get, if anyone makes a change to that web page or they update a calendar event, they will automatically get an email that lets them know that a change has been made. They can also customize a dashboard so that they only see the items that they are particularly interested in, and they can even set up shortcuts on the web page whenever they log in. Rather than seeing our web page, they'll see the web page or the dashboard that they've set up that they want to view. It's got a built-in photo editor and a lot more options for videos too. And Jordan's going to show you some examples of how she's used those. Other important thing we looked for was to make sure that it was compatible with our network. So the network usernames and passwords that we have for everything else on the network, they can log into the web page with those same credentials. And then based on the groups that they're in, I don't know exactly where we'll go with this, but if we wanted to have certain things on the website that we want students to see, we could set it up where it would look and that, the person logs in and their student is going to only pull certain items for them to see. Teachers can see certain items, administrators can see certain items. So that's one of the features of it working with our current networking system. And again, the access to calendars could be the same thing. If there's only certain calendars that you wanted different people to see or certain items on a calendar, it would look at the group to see who has access to it. And the same with our intranet or our district portal. Some of the future things that we're looking at is Blackboard Connect is the same system that we use for our emergency notification system. And that can be integrated with our webpage, and that would be one of the features, because it's the same company, and they've got some integration that we can use there. The other thing that we're excited, I guess technology gets excited about this kind of stuff, but it's a single sign-on access, which you pretty much, it's that same login name and password that we use. The parents, whenever they register, they can use that same login name and password that that's set up for them. So when they log in, we can have some of these other options. These are just a few of the programs that we use that are built into the system. So for instance, if it's a parent and they use the parent portal, they can log into our web page with their login credentials, and it'll automatically show them the parent portal, and they'll click on that and go into the parent portal without having to log in again. That's one of the other features. And again, the same with Power School, Power Teacher, the same thing once they're logged into our webpage. And then the other enhancement is just a mobile app that's available. And I wanted to thank, I wanted to take this time, Amber Cromedy and Technology and Jordan Hensley worked on this together, and I wanted to thank both of them because they've done a great job working together. And Jordan has a task, and Amber tried to move everything we had on our current webpage over to the new webpage, and they've done a great job. And now I'll let Jordan show you our webpage.
All righty. How to get back to it? Okay, so instead of going through a presentation and showing you kind of the functionality and the applications that we have on the new website, I wanted to just kind of walk you through what a person would do on a daily basis, trying to find information. So I think the best way to really look and see how far we've come when viewing our current website versus our new website is to take a look at our old website for just a second. I mean, here you have our home page. You scroll down, and all of a sudden, you are kind of bombarded with quick links and disclaimers and news and upcoming events. And, while this website is informative, and it has everything on it that we as a school district need to have, I ultimately believe that is not a true representation of our district. And so hopefully when I show you the new website, you will think that that is more of a representation of who we are and kind of where we want to go in the future. So this is our new website. And so the first thing that you see is our district photo gallery. And that's very intentional. We highlight student achievements, we highlight staff awards. Almost every time we come to these meetings, we're always getting news about it. We're always getting press releases from the communications team about the amazing things that we're doing in the district. And having this be the focal point of the website really is going to enhance that to the community. So as Diane mentioned earlier, this is what we call a responsive template. So if I was to make this smaller, say that I'm on my iPhone, when I move the web page, then everything moves with me. So no longer is it the exact same. I don't have to scroll left to right. I don't have to scroll up and down. Everything moves to kind of accommodate my device and the computer, the screen that I'm looking on at the same time. So if we go back to that and we go back to full screen, then this is what someone would see anytime that they log on onto a regular computer. So again, moving down, looking at the photo gallery, we are no longer kind of restricted to have a one statement caption per photo. Each photo has the ability to be a link in itself, so that now if I wanted to highlight the top 5 students from each graduating class for 2015, then I could simply put a web story link to this photo. They see the graduation hats, they click on it, and it automatically takes them into an explanation of, again, how wonderful our district actually is. So that is something that, again, if you look right here, it is very, very different. Let's see. Very, very different than kind of the restricted captioning that we have now. So then you move down and you see our welcome. I mean, it's pretty basic, but it gets the job done and it gets our point across. And again, no longer is it kind of overshadowed, overshadowed by the rest of our website. Everything is in a clear kind of distinct section all by itself. And time again, you know, we were told by community members and parents and even some staff that they had a really hard time navigating our old website. So having everything be kind of designated as its own section just allows for easier navigation for the community, for our students, and for our parents. So moving down a little more, we have district news, and I'm still unresponsive, so let me go back. Okay, so our district news, which again is going to be very, very different than our old website, we now have the ability to put a photo with the news. We also have a little teaser text, so if someone is interested that Cane Bay High received the Whole Child Award, then they're going to read a little bit about it, and then they can go ahead and click into it. And it takes you to the web story. This is very different than our other website because before we could only have up to 3 news articles at one time, which, you know, might seem like a lot, but for us who, you know, in my opinion, we're amazing and we have newsworthy items every day, we need to be having the ability to have as much news on our website as possible. So if you go back to the home page and decide that you want to figure out what we were doing 3 weeks ago news-wise, it stores everything that we have. So no longer after, you know, we hit our 3 news article maximum does it take itself off the website, but instead it stores it and you just have the task of clicking through to find what you want to read. Okay, then you scroll down a little more and we have our upcoming events. Again, this is different than before when it was just listed on the right-hand side. And as Diane mentioned, it takes you into kind of a personalized, customizable calendar that you can set up for yourself when you register based on your interests, your needs, etc. Then we go down and now we have the ability to post video straight to our homepage. I think this is going to be a really great feature for us and for the district, so we can really tap in to kind of the production clubs and the amazing work that our students at our schools are doing to highlight on our website. In addition, we will keep our SE Future Minds button so that we can get some donations for our schools. And then we also have our Advanced Ed Accreditation information, which will take you directly to that website and that information. Another thing that I think is going to be amazing for us that we didn't necessarily have the ability to do before is the district announcements. So district announcements and district news before were kind of jumbled all together, but now they're very separate. So district announcements is going to be used for things like the beginning of the month, with all the flooding, with the road closures, with coming back to school. That is going to be a very prime spot to put our information so that the parents, the staff, the students, everyone know exactly where to go every time they need to know something. And then my favorite, because it directly links to my job, we now have the ability to link our social media sites to our website, and so I can finally get rid of the photo that pleads with people to go and like our stuff. So now, oh, I skipped it. So now this can, you know, be exchanged for a picture with students or a picture of you all if you want to do that. So if you click on it, it will take you directly to our Facebook, directly to our Facebook page. So if you haven't gone and liked that, I strongly recommend and encourage all of you to please do so. I get very excited every time I log on and we have some new likes. In addition, we also have Twitter. Feel free to follow me. Moving on. So that's our kind of homepage in a nutshell. Hopefully, again, you see it's very visually stimulating, it's aesthetically pleasing, and that's really what we wanted to focus on. So another thing I wanted to bring your attention to is right up here are 3 tabs, parent, student, and staff. So this is different than our old website because now they are kind of given their own section, and they are actually now created as directories. So if I'm a parent and I want to know graduation information and I don't want to have to go through a big list, then I can just go find G and it takes me directly to graduation information. Same thing for students. If I go to students and decide that I would really like to learn about the instructional calendar, then I would click on the instructional calendar and it will take me right to it. In addition, if we're talking about being easy to navigate and helpful, you'll see right up here, SchoolWires likes to call them breadcrumbs, but it kind of helps you figure out how you got to that point and how you can get back. We've moved quick links now to its own channel bar, so again, just to kind of keep the website concise and clear and organized. The exact same information is there as was before, it's just in a readily available area. Now if you go to departments, it lists all of the wonderful departments we have, but there's some really cool things that we can do with the department pages. And there's Dion. Moving on. So now every department page is going to have the same kind of layout. You're going to have the head of the department, their contact information, the goals, the vision, the priorities for that department, and then on the left-hand side, it's going to be broken down by individual kind of subsections. So say that I wanted to go see what I was up to while I'm at work, and I want to go to the communication page. Well, now, we have the ability to break down all of these kind of subsections that Mr. Jackson oversees. But before, everything was just listed. You couldn't minimize anything. You couldn't kind of navigate it. It all just was there at any given time. And I didn't necessarily want that to be the case forever. So now you can close it and kind of minimize it and just, again, make it organized and concise. Another cool thing that I wanted to point out was a new application we have called a document viewer. So instead of just listing a file saying I wanted to know about the 2014 report to the community, now we can actually kind of embed the report in the web page itself. So when you click on it, you can preview it and make sure that's what you want to see. And then if it is, then you can expand it, maybe. It uses Google Docs. But you can expand it, and from there you can print it, you can save it, you can store it on your drive, and then you can just go ahead and go back to your website. And then the last couple things I wanted to show you, again, Diane had mentioned we are now able to translate our entire website, which I think is amazing because I definitely think we've seen a need for it lately. So say that I'm fluent in Spanish, which I'm not, I took French, and I needed to know all of the information for the website. All I do, thanks to Google Translate, is go ahead and put it into Spanish. It opens it up new for me, and everything, with the exception of our PDFs that we have uploaded separately, will be changed into a different language for us. And then lastly, I wanted to show you the school board kind of applications and the school board breakdown, really when it comes to view agendas and minutes. Before, we were using a filing system that just kept all files on the same page all the time, and I don't know about you, but it got a little overwhelming after a while. So now everything, again, can be broken down and kind of organized in its own little section. And then from there, if I don't want to look at agendas anymore, I can close it. If I want to go to minutes, I can do that too. And then whatever suits my fancy, pull it up, save it, download it, and I'm good to go. You can always go back home by hitting our logo or the home button, or right here where it says district home. So yeah, that's pretty much the website in a nutshell. I hope that you enjoy it. Is there anything on the website that you would like to see that you have not? I'm going to take that as a no. So, okay.
Well done.
When is it going live? Jordan, when is it going live? Diane, November 15th. Very exciting. November 15th.
November 15th?
Is that like this November 15th or?
Ready, we're ready whenever we get all the rest of the content. I think we've got a couple of things that Amber to clean up, but we're close. And then for getting the schools, I think the deadline that we set for them is December the 1st, to have their web pages. Teacher web pages we've already converted over to school.
Excellent.
Yeah, the next step is
Very good.
Okay, moving on to agenda item number 11, Human Resources. Dr. Levine. Second reading of amended policies. Second reading of new policies.
Yes, sir. Good evening. Board Chair Hayes, Interim Superintendent Turner, and school board members. There are several policies listed on tonight's agenda for second and final reading. The policies listed under, and I will change this now to 11A, denote amended policies, while those listed under 11B, along with a rule and 2 exhibits, denote new policies and supplemental information. The aforementioned revisions and policy additions are based on information received in the 2015 Policy and Legislative Update Manual provided by the South Carolina School Boards Association and the need to update policies to reflect changes in requirements. The policies noted under item 11A of tonight's agenda are amended policies for AE, school year, BCBJ, board meeting news coverage, and BCBK, executive session, and KBA, public's right to know, freedom of information. At this time, it is the recommendation of the administration to approve the second and final reading for amended policies as listed under item 11A of the October 27, 2015 school board agenda.
Do we have a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I move that we accept the recommendation of the administration to approve the second and final reading for the amended policies as listed under agenda item 11A.
Second.
Do we have any discussion? Then we have a motion to accept the recommendation of the administration to approve the second and final reading for the amended policies as listed under agenda item 11A. All of those in favor of this, please respond by saying aye.
Aye.
All of those opposed, same sign. Okay.
Okay, thank you. The policies, rule, and exhibit noted under item 11B of tonight's agenda are new items. BC, board meeting agenda, a new policy, service animals, and rule for service animals. You also have exhibits 1 and 2, which are respectively addressing procedures for service animals in schools and requests for the use of service animals. At this time, it is the recommendation of the administration to approve the second and final reading for new policies as listed under item 11B of the October 27, 2015 school board agenda.
Do we have a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I move that we accept the recommendation of the administration to approve the second and final reading for the new policies, rule, and exhibits as listed under agenda item 11B.
Second.
All right, we have a motion to accept the recommendation of the administration to approve the second and final reading for the new policies, rule, exhibits as it listed under agenda item 11B. Is there any discussion or questions? Then all of those in favor of this motion, please respond by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Okay, you have your policies.
Thank you.
All right, moving on to agenda item number 12, instruction accountability, item for action, the Health Advisory Committee.
Mr. Chair, members of the board, Dr. Turner, ladies and gentlemen. As part of the Comprehensive Health Education Act of 1988, we are required annually to bring before you a health advisory committee composed of 13 people. You have that list attached. That is the same list as last year with the exception of one teacher swap. So we are adding Kim Joseph from Hanahan High School, as well as 2 students that rotate every year. This time I'd ask that you adopt the recommendations that we have submitted to you tonight.
Do we have a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the Health Advisory Committee as recommended by the administration in agenda item 12.
I'll second.
All right, we've got a motion to approve the Health Advisory Committee as recommended by the administration in agenda item number 12. It's been seconded. Do we have any discussion on this? And all those in favor of this motion, please respond by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign.
Aye.
Then moving on
Thank you.
to the item for information, the state assessments.
So this is a presentation on our ACT, Aspire, Pass, and Workkeys results. Would like to start with just a little bit of a history lesson around standards and assessments in the state of South Carolina. This history lesson is a bit of an integral component to what has transpired in the last year. So in 2012 and 13, we were teaching Common Core, ELA, and Math standards. However, we were still taking the PASS assessment. In 2013-14, we were teaching Common Core, ELA, and Math, but we took a hybrid between our old PASS assessment and Common Core standards. And 14-15 last year, in the middle of the year, we were scheduled to take the Smarter Balanced assessment. However, it was determined in December that we would take the Aspire assessment instead of Smarter Balanced. And currently, during the current school year, we do not know what our assessment is going to be for our newly adopted ELA and Math standards written in South Carolina. So over the last 4 years, we have had 4 different assessments and 2 different sets of standards. So going through this might be a little bit different than usual. Not only in the sense that it's different from data you've seen before, but you won't see it again because we're not assessing Common Core standards anymore. So just bear that in mind. Okay, so our Aspire results. First, I want to point out a few things. What Aspire defines as ready. This does not mean on grade level. I want to be loud and clear about that. This does not equate to on grade level. Aspire is defined as ready as those students who are on target to be ready for the ACT assessment in the 11th or 12th grade. So it's got nothing to do with being quote-unquote on grade level as we have defined in the past. In addition to that, I'm going to talk about some norm data in a minute, and I threw this bullet here this afternoon after I had a question from Teacher Forum. 48 states offered ACT Aspire in various grade levels at public and private schools. So I want to be clear, not every state assessed Aspire in grades 3 through 8, but they do have norm data from 48 states where they've collected all this data. All right, so just a quick rundown memory lane of some statistics lessons. So what does 50th percentile mean? It's a little pun there. Dr. Turner appreciates that, I'm sure. So this is the 50th percentile. It's right dead center of the middle of a bell curve. So I'm going to reference a 50th percentile. So this 50th percentile is set by all the students that took this test, and it's the average score. That is the 50th percentile. So I'm going to refer to that as the US score, if you will, because the national norm is what sets that 50th percentile. Okay, so for the first time, we are able to look at Berkeley County scores in comparison to South Carolina scores, in comparison to nationally normed scores. So again, this red is that national norm, and they're all set at 50 because that is the 50th percentile, okay, the average score. So I hope that it's pretty clear that South Carolina and Berkeley are performing at the national average, which is contrary to some of the data that we've seen in the past. So according to Aspire's norms, we are performing just above the nation in English, just above the nation in reading, a couple of percent above in writing, and well above in mathematics. And I'll ask you to pay close attention to math, because in the past, when we look at this kind of data, we would just look at Berkeley and South Carolina, and looking at it that way, it looks like we're performing below the state in math, which we are. However, we are significantly outperforming the national norm. So we are outperforming the nation in math. So just kind of keep that in mind as we go through the rest of this presentation. So now what I want to do is look at these average scores and compare them to this cut score set by the ACT. And again, that readiness cut score set by the ACT, Aspire, is readiness to take the ACT in 11th, 12th grade. It does not mean on grade level. So for each of these grade levels, you'll see the average score for Berkeley, the average score for the state, the average score for the nation, and then you'll see the cut score in black that ACT sets as ready to be able to take the ACT and be successful in 11th or 12th grade. So pretty much across the board in every grade level, you'll see that in English we are outperforming that cut score and typically outperforming the nation. If you'll pay attention to math and writing and reading, you'll see some fluctuation among these scores. But overall, you will see that we are in line with the cut score set by the ACT in math and typically outperforming the nation. However, over here in reading, you will see that typically we're outperforming the state and the U.S., but fall well short below the cut score set by the ACT. And also, it's pretty clear that this writing score is set pretty high. We've done some research that writing score set by the ACT Aspire is at about the 85th percentile. So that means only about 15% of the students that take this test will actually hit that mark. So just realize how elevated that score is. Okay, so here's 4th grade. Again, you see the same kind of pattern here in ELA. You see that we're falling in line, pretty close to that cut score and outperforming the nation. Outperforming the state in reading, but still well below the cut score for reading. And you see just a little bit of a shift here. So there's 5th grade. Again, in line in math, still below the writing cut score. We've fallen below the nation here. And still outperforming the state and the U.S. just a smidge there, but below that cut score significantly in reading. 6th grade, again in math, we are just above the nation, right at that cut score set by Aspire. Notice in the writing we're starting to get a little bit closer to that cut score set by Aspire, and the reading is starting to crawl a little bit closer as well. In 7th grade, this pattern sort of continues. However, we're dropping off from that cut score in math, but we're getting a little bit closer in reading and a little bit closer in writing, well above here in ELA. And then as we get to 8th grade, we've actually dropped off a little bit here in math, but snuck up a little bit here in reading. So overall, again, in general, just like we saw with the percentiles, we are performing right at the national and the state level overall. And coming pretty close to those cut scores in math, but significantly lower in reading, and then that high writing expectation. So here's a percent ready at ready or exceeds, and again, according to Aspire's readiness for ACT, not on grade level. So this is reading, and you see that we are 2% above the state for all students in this far left column, and then you see it by grade level here. This is English, again, outperforming the state across the board. Writing, you see that we are below. There is a bit of a hiccup here in 4th grade. We also see lower performance in 7th and 8th grade. As we've gone back and looked at this, as you saw in the previous slides, our average scores are very close to the state and the nation, but our kids fell just below that cut score, and we have a lot of kids on the bubble, as they call it, so they're right below that readiness score. In mathematics, you see that we're 2% below the state overall, and you see that that here in the same grades as writing, actually 4th, 7th, and 8th, we fell off there in math. But again, 7 percentile points above the nation in our math scores. So those were our Aspire scores. Our past scores are specific to science and social studies. So these are the only consistent scores that we've had over the past several years. Our science and social studies standards have remained pretty much stable. The only thing that's changed about science and social studies is they've dropped 3rd grade, so we didn't assess 3rd grade students in science and social studies, and we now test all students in 4th through 8th. It used to be half the kids in science and half in social studies. So now we're doing all kids in 4th through 8th grades. So if you look at these results, you see 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th grade there, significantly outperforming the state, and this does define on grade level. So this is back to our state standards, our state definition of what on grade level means. So again, you see there we are significantly outperforming the state in social studies across the board, and the same thing is true in science. Those are a joy to look at, those last two. So let's move on to ACT. I'll be honest, I was disappointed to see how the article came out about the ACT in the paper recently. They did not release the ACT information the way they did Aspire or Workkeys. So I think it painted about half the picture. The other thing about ACT is that it's not aligned to a specific course that we teach per se. You know, you're going to get end of course results here in the next few weeks. So when we teach English 1, we give an exam at the English 1 course, and that exam assesses that course. Our 3rd, 4th, 7th, 8th grade, science, math, English, social studies, you know, we teach those standards and they're assessed on those standards. ACT is more of a cumulative assessment of what happens prior to the 11th grade. So it's not tied specifically to an 11th grade course. And as you all know, we typically report ACT data specific to our graduating seniors. And we show you a comparative result of our seniors compared to other seniors across the country, and that's how that's typically reported. However, this was the first time that ACT was administered to all 11th graders in the state. So this is a little bit different than ACT data you will see elsewhere. All right, so keeping in mind that our Aspire scores are supposed to be predictors of our ACT results, this data doesn't make a lot of sense. So you see English, here's our composite score compared to the state, reading, science, math, and then our composite score. Now, these are very similar to the comparison of our graduating seniors to the state. So for example, our composite score for our graduating seniors is 20.1. At the state, it's 20.4. So we're within like 0.3 of a point of the state, and this is 0.4 of a point. So the pattern is the same. However, when you're testing all of your juniors compared to college-bound seniors or those wishing to take the test, obviously your results are going to be lower. It's a little bit disappointing that, you know, across the board we outperform the state in English and reading and science and in grades 3 through 8, but that data is not reflected here. However, our students in 11th grade also took the Workkeys. Now, I've shown you this information before, but I'm bringing it back to you because these were all state-required assessments for specific groups. So, as I showed you before, our Workkeys assessment is a test to assess job skills, and they assess students on reading for information, locating information, and applied mathematics. So, 89.4 of our students earned that certificate, that work-ready certificate. That's a national career-ready certificate. So, and we had 89.4 of our students receive a certificate that says you're ready for a job, and that's nationally recognized, versus the state at 87.9 and the nation at 87%. So, just some real quick conclusions from this. So, contrary to other assessment results like NAEP that is on our state report card, these data indicate that South Carolina is performing at the level of other students in states across the country in most every subject. Contrary to our previous, what I'll call one-dimensional data, where we're just comparing ourselves to South Carolina, these data suggest we are strong in math. Although we outperform the state in reading in every grade level, we're still in need of improvement in this area compared to that readiness cut score provided by ACT on the Aspire assessment. And our high school ACT results for 11th graders do not follow trends in grades 3 through 8. However, our Workkeys results do tend to follow those same trend lines. And I know it's late, and I know those were a lot of graphs and a lot of information, but I'll be glad to answer any questions that you might have about this.
Mr. Chairman, high school graduation rates.
I am not allowed to give you that information at this time, and yet we actually don't have a specific cut score yet, but I am smiling so far.
I am waiting to hear that news. Thank you, Dr.
Yes, sir. Just real quick, I was talking to Teacher Forum today, and going back to that first slide where I talked about the change in assessments and change in standards, and at the same time, you know, our teachers have had to juggle that, and now with SLOs on top of that as part of their evaluation. Just want to commend the teachers and the principals for all the work that they've done, as well as our instructional staff at the district, really monitoring and adjusting to all those changes over the past year and producing these kinds of results, because those are really good, taking all that into consideration. So just want to commend them for that.
I just wanted to add, I don't know if the teachers brought this up, but you know, who knows what they could do with teaching writing if they didn't have to test the hang out of these kids. I'm just going to keep beating that drum. You know, we're just testing, testing, testing. And I taught writing, and it's difficult to do if you can't have children write and work with each other on that. So, but thank you for all of this. I am extremely proud of our teachers and principals. It's unimaginable what they've had to deal with. And so thank you for keeping an eye on them and protecting them from as much as you can, because they need protection right now so that they can actually do their jobs.
Yes, ma'am, we're trying. Thank y'all.
Thank you. All right, moving to agenda item number 13, the superintendent's report.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to recognize Amy Murray first she's our Public Information Officer for Community Engagement. She would like to talk to you about legacy builders for just a couple of minutes under the superintendent's report.
Good evening, Ms. Murray.
Good evening, or good night.
Yes.
Not too sure. In any case, good evening, Mr. Chair, Dr. Turner, ladies and gentlemen of the board, and then all of you who are left with us tonight. It has been quite a while since I have stood before you to talk about the great things that are going on in Berkeley County School District, but rest assured, great things are surely happening, and they continue to happen every day here. So tonight, I'd just like to cover or bring your attention to a few different stories that we have in our Legacy Builders publication in this edition. And if for any reason you did not pick up your copy, we have other copies available on the table there. Please take a moment to read them. Okay, so first, Howe Hall Ames received a $12,054 grant from the South Carolina Arts Commission to provide educational opportunities for students. The money will fund artists in residence, fine arts programs, and the materials for fine arts integration and infusion in classrooms. You'll also notice that in this edition, Cane Bay High School received the Whole Child Award. The school was only one of 3 in the entire state to receive this award. Really big news. And then we also have Kendall Hall, and she's a 6th grader at Westview Middle School. She collected 47,756 pennies during the Penny War fundraiser at the school for MUSC's cancer research in honor of her classmate, Ryan Durant, who was recently diagnosed with leukemia. And then finally, last but surely not least, we have a semi-finalist for the 2016 Grammy Music Educator Award in our midst. Miss Linda Versprele, Director of Orchestras at Cane Bay High and the Pan Jam Drum Steel Drum Band Director, is well on her way to becoming a finalist for the award. You probably saw her on the website. She's on the homepage in one of the rotating pictures. The winner of the Grammy will be flown to Los Angeles during Grammy Week to accept the award, attend the Grammy Award ceremony, and will receive a $10,000 honorarium. Again, please be sure to pick up your copy of Legacy Builders. There's lots of awesome news in it, and I'll be back again next month to tell you about some more. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Murray. I'd also like to, and maybe this will dovetail into my final comment. It's already beginning. Next Tuesday, 2 executives from Volvo and Volvo's relocation representative will visit Nexton Elementary, Cane Bay Middle, and Daniel Island School to view the facilities and to learn about the academic programs at our schools. So we're already beginning to feel the first touch of impending movement of people in for Volvo. I am so happy that you invited me to be your interim superintendent for the last 5 months, because I really think when I say something like that, everybody knows that it sort of clicks in with the pattern and the information and the focus that we are starting to see generated. And I am so happy that Brenda Blackburn is on her way and absolutely anxious to know what went on in this board meeting tonight, and I'll be glad to let her know tomorrow. I'm not calling her tonight. but I feel really comfortable. And other thing I would like to say, the biggest surprise I had, it's true, was working with this board. I thought that would be the most difficult thing and the thing that an old academic officer would find most difficult. It turned out that that was not the case at all. I have vastly enjoyed getting to know all of you and to watch you work together and begin to come together in a unified way to take care of our children. And I thank you for this opportunity, because an older person like myself is always glad to be surprised. Thank you. That's it, Mr. Chairman.
All right, then moving on to agenda item number 14. Board chair remarks. We added this item in there 2.5 years ago, almost 3 years now. This county basically had thrust upon it a storm. You know, we can relate right now in our district, in our area, about storms. So I'm going to use that as a way of saying what I've got to say. Back in April, the storm seemed to be really getting difficult. And Dr. Thompson was indicted. And at that time, we asked Mr. Franchini to step up and become our interim. And he did. And he began what I call a time of healing that we were in desperate need. And he did exactly what we were hoping he could do. He pulled us together and finished out the school year. During that time, we had a failed search for a new superintendent. Realizing that having 2 jobs to perform, we had to go out and find another interim. We got this man. I'm going to refer to him as the rainbow, and this is our sun. Yes. Because the storm is basically gone. We have seen so much healing, not only on this board, but throughout this district. And I think that, you know, looking at our cabinet, over these last months, I've seen smiles, I've seen joy, I've seen unity. You talk about unity, you helped put it back into this district. And I personally just want to take this time just to say thank you, both of you. And I'm going to open it up.
Well, I'll begin because I'm verbose and I'm sitting in seat number 1. First of all, to the rainbow. You know how I feel about you. I want to remind you, in case you've forgotten, I first met you in the late 1980s when you were a principal at Remount Road Elementary School. I was a young undergraduate at the University of South Carolina, and you gave me the opportunity to do some substitute teaching. And of course, we remember the humorous story where the little boy took the money from the little girl. I didn't know what to do. So I sent to the office for Mr. Franchini. And he came to the classroom and you said, Billy, it was the stage in the cafeteria, you're correct. I was on the stage. And you came and all you said was, Billy, give Susie back her money. And Billy took that money out of his pocket and gave it to Susie. And I looked at you like you were just my hero. So you taught me so much and you got me started off really well. Archie Franchini, now known as Rainbow. Thank you for being my friend, and thank you for teaching me at an early age. Thank you for holding my hand when I was a chairman. You really created a lot of healing. You really did. Now to the sun. To the sun. I believe the greatest compliment that I could pay Dr. Mike Turner is to say that you remind me of my late father. And for anyone who knew him, You know that's one hell of a compliment. Dr. Turner, I am forever better because of you. Thank you, sir. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. Thank you.
I would like to thank Archie. Jim mentioned that you stepped up in, was it April?
Yep.
My months have all run together. You not only stepped up once, but you've stepped up twice, and that needs to be recognized. You have saved us in our time of need twice that I know of since I've been on the board 5 years. And most districts do not have that. Most districts don't have someone that can step into, or have a seat right here in the superintendent's chair and do the work that the superintendent does, and then also do the job that the deputy superintendent does. So thank you for that. Dr. Turner, thank you, thank you, thank you. You have taken on, what has it been, 5 months? You have taken on in 5 months what most superintendents don't take on in their entire tenure. You have taken on some pretty nasty storms, and our entire district has come out better. And I was talking to a principal just recently and just happened to mention your name, and they stopped me and said, "Isn't he wonderful?" And all I could say was yes, absolutely he is wonderful. I don't expect that your wife would say you're perfect in any stretch of the imagination, as most wives don't. But for our district, you've been perfect. And Mrs. Turner, thank you for sharing him with us for the past 5 months.
I would just like to jump in and echo all of these words. I have told Dr. Turner, thank you. I don't know how many times since he's been here. And sometimes I just called him just to tell him thank you. I didn't even know what he'd done that day, but it didn't matter. It is palpable in this district, and it certainly is for me as a board member. Leadership is such a dicey thing, and yet from the time you agreed to come back, you have been unafraid and unapologetic and clear and concise and brilliant in your leadership. And I think what I was most touched by was how quickly you and Archie wanted to talk and get down to business. It said a lot about how serious you are about this district and how much you love it. And I've also just loved listening to all of the things you've shared in terms of Ms. Blackburn's transition here and how you've communicated with her. I had the opportunity to talk to her before she went back home, and she said, no one gets this. She said, you know that, right? Superintendents don't make moves like this and have someone like Dr. Turner and the staff. She was very complimentary of everyone. And so thank you, because that is the gift that's going to keep giving for our children and our teachers here. And I'm going to miss you, but I do hope you have fun and do something exciting. And thank you for supporting him, because it's not an easy job. And we're indebted to you as well, Jean. We appreciate it.
I'll make my remarks brief, but when Jim told me he was going to say something tonight, I wrote down 3 words that Dr. Turner brought to mind: and extreme intelligence, or as Kathy said, brilliance, his communication skills, and the fact that he's a unifier. And I remember on your very first day, Dr. Turner, you said your main goal was you wanted to bring joy to this district, and you accomplished that. So I just want to say thank you for that.
Thank you, Mac.
Dr. Turner, I hadn't been here as long as the others, but this has been a joy to have the kind of leadership and the kind of wisdom that you have expressed among us as board members. And I want to thank Ms. Turner, also for allowing you to do that. I know you told me you're going home now and do what you want to do, but that's not right. It's not gonna work that way. Just want you to know. But we pray that you have the best. And words can't really express how much we really appreciate what you've done. And I wish there was some special thing that we could do other than say thank you. But
Keep working. Just keep working.
we're gonna keep working, and we're gonna work with the new superintendent, just as we work with you, and we're gonna make things work for the betterment of the children of Berkeley County.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, Dr. Turner, I second.
You've known me
what
the
everybody else
longest
has
of
said.
anybody here.
I've known you for a long time. When Kathy called me and said what she was thinking about and wanting you to come back and bring this district together, I said, well, Kathy, oh my God, why didn't I thought of that? But and I said, do you think he would say yes? And she said, I'm gonna see, can we pull this together? But I thank you for saying yes and coming back and helping us out as a district. We really needed your leadership, and to you as well, Archie. You're a fine person. You've done a wonderful job working for our district. We just thank you all.
My pleasure.
Staff and everybody else for all that you've done. Thank you.
My pleasure.
I didn't prepare anything, but I just want to say thank you so much, especially for leadership for the board, for clarity, for conciseness, for helping us understand what our role is. That's a big deal. That's a big deal for us to do what we're supposed to be doing, and you really directed that and helped us step into a total board with different personalities, but coming together with a common vision. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sal.
We're going to say last but not least, but a couple of the, notable things, you stepped in right to the firestorm. We were trying to put the budget together in late June, 1st of July, and stepped in with both feet and got us through that. And then especially tonight for us getting us through finally the hand-in-hand contract and hopefully
Amen,
building
Phil.
a school there in Tanner Plantation. It's been, 18 months, 2 years, 3 years, I've lost count going, but finally, we were able to do all that through your leadership, so thank you again.
Thank you.
I feel like a very small fish in a very big pond, and I have, and Miss Robbie will tell you that from the beginning, I have felt very unworthy to get to partake in all of this. Ever since I first started teaching in Greenville County, I was very much focused on my four little walls. And I can tell you in Greenville County, I could not have even told you the superintendent's name, had no clue. And last year, I guess it was the year before, when I received the honor of the District Teacher of the Year, I remember afterwards asking Stephanie, should I send thank you emails? And she said, well, send one to probably Archie Francine. I was like, well, who is that? Had no clue. I was like, I've only been in this district a year and a half. And I would have never thought that a year later, actually probably to the month, I would have been standing in your office and you were very, very kindly letting me give you my very strong opinions about the superintendent interviews. And gave me your cell phone number to allow me, I know, and I'm going to say it, and I'm sorry, just a little teacher, call you and give you my thoughts. And I just appreciate that so much, the way that you stepped up and your heart for teachers. I've always, I guess,
thought the district was the big man that didn't. They had forgotten what it was like to be a teacher. And oh my word, have I been proven wrong by Berkeley County. And thank you so much for showing me that firsthand. And Dr. Turner, you have been an impeccable example of leadership. I did not know what to expect from the interim superintendent. I only knew that he definitely had my pity, that he was coming in to a situation here that we were hurting and we needed some healing. But it was very clear from the beginning you did not need my pity. You came in and you have never demanded respect, but you have commanded it from the first moment you walked in. You have led with integrity, with competence, and the whole time with positivity. In every situation that I've been around you, never once have you hung your head or seemed that you were burdened by all the things that you were going through. And if anyone would have been allowed to complain, it would have been you. And you have held your head high and have earned my respect even more. It was so comforting to sit there as a teacher and know that you were my leader. And sir, let me tell you, you have my full trust. Anything you would have said, I would have said, yep, that's it. It was very clear that you have a heart for teachers, but more importantly, that you have a heart for students. And I just want to thank you on behalf of Teacher Forum, how you have brought together our district and helped me to see that it's not a district that has forgotten what teachers go through in the classroom, but you really do have our heart and our well-being in mind. So thank you, thank you, thank you.
This time I'll entertain a motion to go into executive session for receipt of illegal advice, contract matter litigation, student attendance appeal, and the discussion of pending employment matters, including an administrative appointment.
So moved.
Second.
All of those in favor of the motion, please respond by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? And we are in executive session.